Night 15. The three Reibu women return to camp after a crazy result from the Joint Tribal Council. Michaela still cannot grasp the fact that she's in the game. Once she heard there were 2 votes for her, she thought it was over. Nicola doesn't know what really went down, but she assumes an extra vote must have been played because there were 9 votes and only 8 people present. Michaela thinks that perhaps Clarence flipped on them and put 2 votes on her, and that Jonathan voted for Bane with the 3 of them, leaving Avery Lee, Bane, and Antonio voting for Clarence. However, she doesn't know why they would vote him out. Aaron says at this point, they know they can continue to trust Jonathan going into the merge. They will need to regroup with Orniel as well because they need a lot of numbers. On Tatakai, the tribe returns to camp, and Avery Lee hugs Bane, thinking she was going to lose him at Tribal. Bane says Antonio came in clutch with his idol play and is glad he's loyal to the soil. Avery Lee admits she voted Clarence because she knew he wasn't voting with them, and Jonathan likely wouldn't vote Michaela. Therefore, her vote felt pointless at the time and she threw it onto Clarence, not thinking Jonathan would play an extra vote and vote him twice. Bane is amazed by it and at least knows that they took out someone bad for them as Clarence indeed flipped to work with Reibu. Jonathan later joins the 2 of them and admits he played his extra vote to put 2 votes on Clarence. However, he did not expect him to go home. He wanted to split the vote for their alliance. Bane and Avery Lee don't believe Jonathan, but they don't tell him in front of his face. Instead, Avery Lee says they trust him because he did not vote the 3 of them, and that's what matters to them right now. Day 16 in the game means this season has passed the halfway point. All 12 players arrive to their mats where Justin awaits them. They notice the box on the table, and they instantly realize they are getting new buffs. Justin lets Tabra know that Clarence was voted out at the last Joint Tribal Council. Cindy is a bit surprised but is more focused on the buff table. Justin then says after 15 full days in this game, the multi-tribe format is no more, and they can now drop their buffs as they are merging. Everyone celebrates reaching the merge and drop their buffs. Justin passes them their new buffs and lets them know they are now a green tribe color. He expects the 12 of them to come up with a merge name as well, so he'll ask for one at their next reward challenge tomorrow. They all nod, and even though some are excited, many people know this merge will not be friendly. Justin sends them all to their brand new merge camp, and off they go. At camp, everyone comes together and finally meet people they've never got to officially meet before. Nicola eventually gets to Cindy and whispers to her that they need to chat. Cindy nods and they continue around saying hello to everyone. Later on, Nicola and Cindy get a chance to chat, and Cindy asks her what's up. Nicola tells her she really wanted to work with her ever since they met on day 3 from the reward twist. Cindy says she's considering all options and would be down to work with her. Nicola says it makes sense for them to target a Tatakai since Reibu and Tabra can now work together. Cindy goes along with this idea and says they'll chat more about this. Meanwhile, Annette looks around camp, searching for the merge idol. She knows there must be one somewhere, but she fails to find it. As she walks away, Jonathan comes from behind and watches her walk past the idol on the ground. He quickly snatches it and stuffs it in his pocket. As Jonathan tries to look less suspicious by walking around camp, Nicola, Aaron, Cindy, and Avery Lee point out his strange movements. Avery Lee is especially suspicious and wonders if he's searching around for the merge idol. Sometime after, Nicola and Michaela pull Jonathan into a conversation with them, and Nicola warns him that Avery Lee is really suspicious of him lately due to him walking around camp as if he's just exploring around. Jonathan then admits to them he found the merge idol and wonders if Avery Lee saw the bump in his pocket. Nicola shrugs and says they didn't see anything sticking out, but they did notice his weird movements. Michaela tries to hold in her excitement and congratulates Jonathan for finding the idol. She says this is huge for their alliance because if they feel unsafe, they can use it to their benefit. Zonathan says he is willing to share this idol amongst the Reibu alliance, minus Orniel since he doesn't trust him. Meanwhile, Iran works on her connections as she's one of the least connected to everyone else in the game. She only knows Nicola, Michaela, Zonathan, and Orniel for the most part. She talks with Avery Lee and tells her that although they voted differently last tribal, she doesn't see that as a reason for them to work against each other. Avery Lee agrees and says she wouldn't be opposed to working with her because she recognizes how smart she is in the game. Iran also recognizes Avery Lee as a smart player and hopes they can move forward together. Night 16, Avery Lee chats with Cindy as she knows Cindy is in one of the better positions in the game. She asks Cindy who she thinks should be targeted as of now, and Cindy suggests they stick Tabru and Tatakai strong and vote out one of the Reibu girls. She specifically thinks Michaela or Iran would be the best to go for their games. Avery Lee says she is more concerned with Michaela as she's seemingly stronger in challenges. She adventures around the world anyway. She has a lot more experience outdoors than Iran. Cindy says they'll talk about it more eventually. Antonio and Bane later chat and agree they would rather stay strong with Tatakai and Tabru. They don't feel comfortable with the 5 Reibu members still in the game. Bane asks who he feels they should prioritize with this first merge vote coming, and Antonio says he's between Iran and Michaela as they are in a clear trio with Nicola. However, Antonio wouldn't take Nicola out just yet because he admits they had a conversation back on day 3 about how they could work together in secret. Bane finds this interesting but also believes that's out the window as long as Michaela and Iran are in the game with her. Antonio agrees and says that's the reason they need one of the two gone. Avery Lee later joins Antonio and Bane and is caught up with their chat. Antonio tells her he feels better with Nicola than Michaela and Iran. Avery Lee then says she feels comfortable with Iran now after a chat they recently had. Bane shakes his head and says Iran is likely playing her and is telling her she has her back for her own safety. Bane prefers Iran to go first because she's definitely playing harder than Michaela. But Avery Lee doesn't think it's right for her own game to vote Iran out before Michaela. While they chat, Sierra, Annette, and Cindy also chat about their path at this moment to maneuver through this beginning portion of the merge. Sierra says she has been waiting for the day she could split the Reibu girls up, especially after they voted out Caleb. Her closest friend and ally Cindy says that's still the plan for everyone right now. At this rate, Nicola, Iran, Michaela, and Zonathan are on the outs. Cindy also considers Orniel as on the outs, but he likely feels closer to them than to Reibu right now, so he's not a priority for them. Sierra says her preference is to vote Iran out, but she will easily flip on any of the other 2 girls if their names are suggested. The sun rises, and it's day 17. It's time for the first merge reward challenge. Before starting to explain the rules, Justin asks the tribe if they came up with a name yet. They all count down and say the name at the same time. Their new tribe name is Oolana. Now on to the challenge, where in this, everyone will be split into 2 random teams of 6. Each team will have a member swim to the other side of the body of water and sit in the finish seat. Then, the next member will go, and so on. The team with all 6 members done before the other tribe will win reward. The reward this time is time spent away from camp. The 6 winners will hang out and party at a pool with drinks offered. They will return to camp tonight. The teams are then split up, and on the purple team, we have Nicola, Cindy, Annette, Zonathan, Bane, and Orniel. On yellow, we have Avery Lee, Marvin, Antonio, Michaela, Iran, and Sierra. With that, the challenge begins, and Nicola and Avery Lee swim out first. Avery Lee gets to the end and sits down first, and 2 seconds later, Nicola finishes as well. Marvin and Cindy then go next for their teams, and Marvin finishes before Cindy. Antonio then heads up for yellow, and Annette goes soon after for purple. Antonio reaches the end before Annette can, and Michaela heads up next for yellow. Annette then sits down for purple, so Jonathan then swims next for purple. While swimming, Jonathan struggles to keep up with Michaela, and Michaela finishes way before him. Aaron heads up next for yellow, and a bit after, Jonathan finishes for purple, allowing Bane to head up. Aaron extends yellow's lead, sitting down before Bane. Sierra is up last for yellow, and Orniel starts soon after once Bane finishes. It doesn't matter though, as Sierra swims to the end and sits down before Orniel, making the yellow team the official winners of the reward challenge. They are told they will head out to their pool reward now, and that purple will head to camp now. They all head out. Back at Oolana camp, Orniel has a chat with Annette and Cindy and asks what the plan is right now for their alliance. Cindy says it's seeming very popular right now for one of the Reba women to go first. Orniel says he doesn't mind at all because they don't seem to be interested in working with him. While they chat, Jonathan and Nicola talk about people they can try pulling in to vote Tatakai out. Nicola feels like they can get Orniel back on side with them. She also feels good about Cindy, stating they had a good conversation very early in this merge. Jonathan is skeptical, though, as he doesn't think Bane and Antonio would want Tatakai voted out. He thinks they are close with Cindy still, therefore the three of them would most likely stay strong with Tatakai. Nicola shrugs and says it's the only thing they can do now apart from trying to idle one of the Tatakais out. Now on to the reward group. The yellow team enjoy their time at the pool, with Justin serving drinks as the bartender. Avery Lee and Sierra catch up on their games after splitting up in the swap. Avery Lee says she feels really good about Tabaru, and Sierra says she does as well. Avery Lee feels like it's very evident Rebu is on the outs, so one of them are going home first. Sierra says she prefers Aaron to go because she seems to be the brains behind Rebu's alliance. Avery Lee says she's unsure yet who the true threat is from that group, but if everyone is already set on voting Aaron out, she'll join in too. While they chat, Aaron works more on her connections as she talks with Antonio and Marvin. She talks about growing up as a Korean immigrant and how she learned the English language in 2 years. Antonio finds this very inspiring and lets her know she's seemingly smart in general. Aaron says people call her smart all the time, but she feels like she's just as smart as everyone else. She doesn't see herself as more intelligent than anyone else. She feels like she's average. Marvin then asks her where she stands in the game right now, and Aaron admits it seems that X-Tribes are sticking together. However, she says she likes playing this game with an open mind, so she wouldn't be opposed to working with them moving forward. Antonio and Marvin say the three of them would work well together since they are each from a different original tribe. While the pool party slowly starts to wrap up, Michaela decides to use up the time to practice her swimming as she suspects more swimming challenges in the future. Night 17 arrives, and the 6 people who went on reward return to camp. Michaela catches up with Nicola and Jonathan. Nicola says she feels they have a good chance of surviving if they work with Cindy. Jonathan says they could easily strike up a deal with her, Antonio, and Bane since they can vote as a group of 7, which is majority. Michaela says this works with her because she has been thinking of voting out Sierra first from Tatakai as she's their main enemy ever since they voted out Caleb. Nicola and Jonathan seem fine with this. Aaron later has a chat with Bane to see where his head is at. Bane says he's obviously close to certain people like Antonio, Avery Lee, and Cindy, so he wouldn't consider voting them off. Aaron then offers him to work with her, Michaela, Nicola, and Jonathan, and they can vote off either Marvin or Sierra at their first merged tribal. Bane says he'd need to speak with his allies before giving her an answer, so she nods and they split away from each other. Bane then talks with Avery Lee and fills her in on his conversation with Aaron. Avery Lee feels a bit more suspicious of her because it's becoming more evident that Aaron is socializing with a lot of people. Bane feels that Aaron would be a simple first merge boot. However, Avery Lee is thinking about who they should kick out right before jury, and she thinks Iran is more of a fair juror than someone like Michaela. Bain somewhat agrees but also says Michaela would only be one juror out of many. Avery Lee hopes jury starts at Final 11, but she isn't sure because of the Final 2 format this season. It's now day 18, which means it's time for the immunity challenge. In this challenge of endurance, everyone will need to do various yoga poses as part of a routine. If someone messes up the routine, they are eliminated from the challenge. The last player standing wins individual immunity. Everyone sees the new immunity necklace and love the look of it. With that, they prepare for the challenge. It then commences, and everyone starts up the routine. Everyone is going strong for an hour, and eventually, Avery Lee messes up and is the first eliminated. Following her is Antonio, and soon after, Bain. All three laugh as they find it ironic the three of them got out first. After some time, Marvin comes in 9th place, leaving just 8 people. Jonathan gets out next, and following him is Cindy. Annette gets out soon after, leaving just 5 people, 4 of them being Reibu members. Sierra stays strong as Michaela gets out in 5th place, and Iran later gets out in 4th. With the challenge coming down to Nicola, Orneal, and Sierra, all 3 focus as hard as they can as all 3 of them want this win. Unfortunately for Nicola, she messes up the routine and gets out at Final 3. Sierra and Orneal are the last 2 to face off, and Sierra gets out last, meaning Orneal wins the first individual immunity challenge. Justin lets everyone else know they can now head back to camp where one of them will become the 10th person voted out, right before jury begins. They all nod and head out. Back at Oolana's camp, Nicola asks Bain if him, Antonio, and Cindy are still down to work with Reibu tonight to vote out Sierra or Marvin. Bain says they are thinking about it still because they have a major decision coming up. Meanwhile, Iran and Michaela start to work on Annette as they feel like she's been more distant from everyone else in the game. Iran asks her if she would feel better with someone like Sierra gone, but Annette simply says wherever her Tabro allies go, she goes. She apologizes in advance if the vote ends up being one of Reibu, admitting it has been a major discussion point for her Tabro tribe. Iran and Michaela look at each other and thank Annette for considering this decision. Sierra chats with Cindy about the vote tonight, and says she's relieved none of the Reibu girls won immunity. Cindy says at this rate, it's looking like it's either Michaela or Iran. Sierra still pushes for Iran to be the one to go, but she knows Avery Lee has been worried about Michaela reaching jury. Cindy says she understands the concern as Iran is more of a logical thinker which would benefit anyone if she's on the jury. Sierra says they could vote Iran out at Final 11 since they know jury starts at that point. Cindy isn't opposed to this idea and says she'll talk with everyone else. Antonio and Iran later chat as Iran tries to figure out if the plan to vote out Sierra or Marvin is a go. Antonio says that he would feel better seeing Sierra go as he likes Marvin more on a game level. Iran agrees and says she really felt connected with him lately, especially during their pool reward. She says she'll let her people know it's Sierra going in that case. Nicola, Jonathan, and Bain chat about the upcoming vote. Jonathan asks how the votes will be distributed tonight. Bain says as of now, it seems like it's Sierra going with 8 votes cast on her. The only people left out of the loop would be Sierra, Marvin, Avery Lee, and Orneal. Jonathan is good with this and Nicola says if he really trusts that Avery Lee would vote Sierra out, he can also loop her in on the plan. Bain says he'll think about it because he knows Avery Lee and Sierra are tight. With that, night 18 finally arrives, and it's time for tribal council. Everyone has a seat, and Justin gasps at how packed this tribal council area is with 12 people, especially since the pre-merge was built of smaller tribes. Justin turns to Orneal first and congratulates him on his immunity win. He asks him if he really needed this win, and Orneal says it wasn't too crucial for him specifically, but a win is a win. Justin then asks Sierra if she really needed that immunity win, but Sierra surprisingly says she didn't need it as long as her targets couldn't win. The three Reibu women side-eye her, so Justin then turns to Cindy and asks her if she knows who Sierra is referring to. Cindy says it's evident there's a war between two sides, mainly Reibu and Tatakai. That leaves Tabru in the middle tonight deciding who goes home. Michaela speaks up and says Sierra is someone who really started this divide early on, as Reibu was under the impression that she wanted Tatakai and Tabru to align ever since the reward they won was given up to Tabru. Sierra says this is true because she wanted to let them know in any way possible that Tatakai liked Tabru. As long as they could stick together as two tribes, they would have the numbers against Reibu. Justin asks Iran if she feels like Tabru and Tatakai are still close, and Iran says tonight is a test to see if that's truly the case. Avery Lee wraps up the discussion, stating that no matter what, this vote will be divided, and it could very easily determine how the next few rounds of the game will go. Justin then lets everyone know it's time to vote. Let's see how Tribal turns out now.
I'll tally the votes. If anyone has a hidden immunity idol and they want to play it, now would be the time to do so. Alright, I'll read the votes. First vote. Sierra. Michaela. That's one vote Sierra, one vote Michaela. Michaela. 2 votes Michaela. Sierra. We're tied, 2 votes Sierra, 2 votes Michaela. Sierra. That's 3 votes Sierra. Sierra. Nicola. That's 4 votes Sierra, 2 votes Michaela, 1 vote Nicola. Michaela. 4 votes Sierra, 3 votes Michaela, 1 vote Nicola. Michaela. We're tied again, 4 votes Sierra, 4 votes Michaela, 1 vote Nicola, 3 votes left. Michaela. 5 votes Michaela, 4 votes Sierra, 1 vote Nicola. 10th person voted out of Survivor Japan. Michaela.
Michaela closes her eyes and shakes her head. Sierra and Marvin both smile as Michaela gets up to grab her torch. As Michaela walks towards Justin, she calls out there are some snakes in the grass. She places her torch down and watches it get snuffed by Justin. She turns around, tells everyone to play hard, and tells Nicola, Aram, and Zonathan she loves them for life. All 3 of them wave as she heads out. Justin then lets everyone know they have reached the jury phase, meaning anyone voted out from now on will be part of the jury that will vote between the 2 finalists at the very end and determine who wins Survivor Japan. He tells them to head out, and so they do. Next time on Survivor Japan, as Reibu loses a close friend and ally in Michaela, Nicola and Iran do not give up as they continue to talk with people they feel they can try to flip over to their side. With Sierra and Marvin continuing to target Reibu, will their big alliance stay strong and vote with them? Or, will someone from the majority get blindsided at the vote? Plus, you do not want to miss out on the next reward challenge as the 3 past Survivor winners come back for a little visit. All of this will be on Sunday's episode. Michaela's final thoughts. From the very beginning, Michaela was most loyal to her girls Aran and Nicola. Of course, they were at a disadvantage when Sierra got Tatakai and Tabor to team up very early on. At this point, she admits Aran, Nicola, and Zonathan are all screwed if they do not cause a flip at their next tribal council. She's definitely rooting for them on the outside.